Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, it's going to be a good one.
This time we're blasting off.
Into space.
Well, sort of.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're exploring the world of satellite internet access.
Yeah.
You've probably used it before, maybe without even realizing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ever gotten online while cruising through the Caribbean?
No.
Or watched a movie on a flight?
Okay, yeah.
That's satellite internet in action.
Makes sense.
So our mission today.
Mission. Sounds important.
Well, it is.
Okay, lay it on me.
We really want to understand how it all works
That's
from
right.
those early, like dial-up days.
Kind of, but for satellite internet. From those early clunky connections
Oh, I see.
to today's systems that are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. I mean, I'm picturing these powerful satellites way up there.
Yeah.
But how does my cat video actually get beamed down from space?
Well, it all starts with a bit of history.
Okay, I like history.
You might remember Sputnik 1.
That little satellite that launched back in 1957,
Oh, yeah.
that kicked off the space race.
Mm-hmm.
And just a few years later, in 1962,
Okay.
we saw the launch of Telstar 1,
Telstar 1.
the first commercial communication satellite.
Wow.
This marked the beginning of satellite-based communication as we know it.
So that was really the start of it all.
Pretty much.
Huh. That's amazing.
But even before that,
Before that, even
Yeah.
before Sputnik.
even before that,
Wow.
science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke,
Oh, of course.
he envisioned using geosynchronous satellites,
Geosynchronous.
the kind that stay in the same spot above the Earth, for global communication.
So this was back in 1945.
It was.
It's mind-blowing
Right.
how his imagination paved the way for a network
Mm.
that could relay information across vast distances,
Yeah,
basically shrinking our planet.
it really did.
So did that directly influence the satellite internet systems we use today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It laid the groundwork for those early ambitious projects.
It's like Teledesic.
Teledesic? Never heard of it.
Well, they aimed to launch a massive constellation,
Installation.
of low Earth orbiting satellites
Okay.
to provide global internet access.
Oh,
This was in the 90s, right?
the 90s. So what happened to it?
Well, it was ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time.
They envisioned a network capable of delivering broadband speeds
Broadband speeds in the 90s.
to every corner of the globe.
Wow.
But the technology just wasn't quite ready.
I see.
Back then, building and launching that many satellites
Hmm.
was incredibly expensive and complex.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Plus, the technology for managing such a vast network was still in its infancy.
Right.
It ultimately fell apart.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, but it laid the groundwork for today's mega constellations like Starlink.
Speaking of which,
Mm-hmm.
satellite internet has come a long way from those early days.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I even heard a report from the FCC in 2013
Hmm.
mention that some providers were exceeding their advertised speeds.
Interesting.
Have you noticed that things have gotten faster?
Definitely.
Okay.
A big part of that is the shift to the Ka-band.
The Ka-band.
It's a higher frequency range
Okay.
that allows for much faster data speeds.
So like faster internet.
Much faster.
Okay.
Think of it like going from a narrow country road to a multi-lane highway
Ah, I see.
in terms of data flow.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
This paved the way for high-throughput satellites
High throughput satellites.
like Viasat-1 and HughesNet's Jupiter.
Wow. Okay, so we've got these powerful satellites up in space,
Right.
beaming data back and forth at lightning speed.
Pretty much.
But how does it actually work? What's the journey my cat video takes
A
from
fight.
space to my screen?
It's like a relay race.
A relay race?
There are three main players:
Okay.
the satellite itself,
Uh-huh.
gateways on the ground,
Gateways.
Yeah.
Okay.
and your antenna and modem.
Got it.
When you click play on that cat video,
Uh-huh.
your request travels from your device to your dish,
Okay.
which acts like a focused transmitter.
So the dish is sending the signal up
It is.
to the satellite.
Yes, the dish beams the request up to the satellite.
Okay.
The satellite amplifies it
Okay.
and transmits it back down to a specific gateway on Earth.
So the gateway is like a translator
Exactly.
between the satellite network
Uh,
and the rest of the internet.
exactly. It receives the signal,
Okay.
decodes it,
Okay.
and sends the request out to the wider internet.
Gotcha.
Then, the video you requested travels back through the gateway,
Uh-huh.
up to the satellite,
Okay.
and finally back down to your dish and device.
Wow. That's quite the journey for a silly cat video.
Yeah, it's quite a trip.
It all happens so fast.
It does.
But I've heard that there's this thing called latency
Latency.
that can be a problem with satellite internet.
Yes, especially for things like online gaming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So why is that?
Yes, latency. It's the time it takes for a signal to travel back and forth.
Okay.
And because the signal has to travel all the way up to a geostationary satellite
Uh-huh.
and back down, it creates a noticeable delay.
So that's why my friend in Alaska can never beat me in online games.
Exactly. We're talking about a round-trip delay.
Round trip.
Yeah.
Oh.
Of around 500 to 700 milliseconds for satellite internet
Oh, wow.
compared to
Compared to.
15 to 40 milliseconds for cable or fiber optic connections.
So that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So things like online gaming, which require split-second responses,
Yeah.
can feel laggy.
They can.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wait, aren't there different types of satellite internet?
There are?
I've heard of portable systems
Uh-huh.
and systems that use regular phone lines for part of the connection.
Yeah.
How do those work?
You're right. There
Yeah,
are.
so about those portable systems. Yeah.
Those portable systems are amazing. For people on the move, like journalists reporting from remote areas or folks on boats,
Oh, that makes sense.
they basically pack a dish and a modem
A dish and a modem.
into one compact unit.
Oh, wow.
They're great for checking emails or sending small files,
Okay.
but often have limited bandwidth
Limited bandwidth.
compared to home systems.
Okay.
Streaming movies might not be the best experience.
So no movie nights on a sailboat then?
Probably not in high definition.
Okay.
But those systems that combine satellite and terrestrial connections,
Mm-hmm.
like one-way receive and one-way broadcast systems,
Right.
they can be clever workarounds.
Clever workarounds.
They use your regular phone line to send data requests,
Okay.
but the actual data you download
Yeah.
comes via satellite
Oh, I see.
at a much higher speed.
It's kind of like a hybrid system.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
This leads us to another question.
Okay, shoot.
What about those technical terms I saw in the notes for this episode? Like TDMA, bent pipe architecture, and transponders.
Ah, yes, the technical jargon.
What do those even mean?
Well, let's start with transponders.
Okay, transponders.
They're essentially the heart of a communications satellite.
Are they like little mini computers?
Kind of. Each transponder receives a signal at a specific frequency,
Okay.
amplifies it,
Okay.
and then retransmits it at a different frequency.
So they boost the signal as it goes up and down from space.
They do.
What about TDMA and bent pipe architecture?
TDMA stands for Time Division Multiple Access,
Time division multiple access, okay?
and it's a way to share the satellite's capacity
Okay.
among multiple users.
Uh-huh.
Imagine a single-lane road that everyone needs to use.
Okay, single lane road.
TDMA is like having a traffic light system,
Got it.
where each user gets a short burst of dedicated access
Okay,
to send and receive data,
got it.
ensuring everyone gets their fair share of the bandwidth.
Makes sense.
Now, bent pipe architecture
Bent pipe architecture.
is basically how most traditional geostationary satellite internet systems work.
Oh, okay.
It's called bent pipe because the satellite basically acts like
A pipe that bends the signal back down to Earth?
exactly.
Okay.
Satellite receives the signal,
Uh-huh.
amplifies it,
Okay.
and transmits it back down to a gateway on Earth
Yeah.
without really processing or modifying the data itself.
So it's like a simple relay.
It is.
Okay.
It's a simple but effective way to relay information over long distances.
Okay, so we've covered how the signal travels,
Mm-hmm.
different types of systems,
Right.
and even some of the technical terms behind it all.
We did.
I'm guessing this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh, you bet.
What other challenges and innovations are out there in the world of satellite internet?
Well, we've got rain fade,
Rain fade.
line of sight issues,
Oh, yeah.
and even something called Fresnel zone interference.
Fresnel zone interference.
But we'll dive into those fascinating challenges in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh.
Stay tuned.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into satellite internet.
We're going even deeper this time.
I feel like we've already learned so much,
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
but I'm also realizing just how much more there is to uncover.
Oh, there's always more to learn.
Last time we left off with the tantalizing promise of challenges like rain fade and Fresnel zone interference.
Those are some fun terms.
Now, I love a good science fiction term as much as the next person.
You doesn't.
But can you break those down for me?
Of course.
Okay, let's start with rain fade.
Okay, rain fade.
It just sounds so mysterious.
It's actually a pretty straightforward concept.
Oh, really?
Imagine you're trying to shine a flashlight through a heavy rainstorm.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The rain droplets scatter the light,
Yeah.
making it harder to see, right?
Yeah, it's like trying to watch a movie on a blurry screen.
Exactly.
Not ideal.
Not ideal at all.
So rain fade works the same way with satellite signals.
It does.
So those tiny water droplets in the atmosphere.
They can absorb and scatter the radio waves,
Oh, I see.
weakening the signal
Hmm.
and potentially causing interruptions in your internet connection.
So if I'm trying to stream a movie during a downpour, my connection might get choppy.
That's a possibility, especially with older satellite internet systems.
Okay.
Larger dishes can help mitigate the problem.
So bigger is better in this case.
In this case, yes,
Okay.
because they can gather more of the signal even when it's weakened.
Makes sense.
But those big dishes are usually meant for professional installations.
Right, those giant dishes you see at TV stations and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks.
Not your average home setup.
So what about line of sight issues? I remember hearing that you need a clear view of the sky for satellite internet to work.
That's true.
Okay.
The signal needs a clear path between your dish and the satellite.
Okay.
If there are trees, buildings, or even mountains blocking the view,
Mm-hmm.
it can disrupt the connection.
That's interesting. So living in a dense city with tall buildings everywhere might not be ideal for satellite internet.
It can definitely be a challenge.
I see.
That's why satellite internet is often a great option for rural areas with fewer obstructions.
Makes sense, where there's not a lot of stuff blocking the signal.
Exactly.
Now, this Fresnel zone thing sounds even more mysterious.
It does have a certain mystique to it.
What's that all about?
Think of it like this. The signal traveling between your dish and the satellite isn't just a single straight line.
Okay.
It's actually more like a cone-shaped area
A cone-shaped area.
called the Fresnel zone.
The Fresnel zone.
For the signal to be strong and clear,
Mm-hmm.
you need to keep this entire zone free from obstructions.
So it's not just about having a clear line of sight, but also about keeping a certain area around that line clear.
Exactly.
So it's like having a buffer zone
You could say that.
for the signal.
If something, like a tree branch or a building, intrudes into the Fresnel zone, it can reflect or diffract the signal,
Reflect or diffract.
causing interference and reducing the quality of your connection.
So it's kind of like having someone talking in your ear while you're trying to listen to music.
A very apt analogy.
Okay, so that makes sense. But even with those challenges, satellite internet has come a long way.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember we talked about how the FCC reported performance improvements back in 2013?
Yeah, things have gotten much better.
What were some of the things that helped boost those speeds?
Well, they found that latency was being reduced thanks to techniques like PCP acceleration.
PCP acceleration, what is that?
It makes the connection feel snappier
Snappier.
by streamlining the way data packets are sent and acknowledged.
Okay.
It's like optimizing the flow of traffic on a busy highway.
So less congestion, faster data flow.
Exactly.
And I remember you mentioned HTTP prefetching,
Ah, yes, prefetching.
which predicts what you might want to watch or read next and preloads it in the background.
That's right.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
Like having a mind-reading internet connection,
Almost.
anticipating your every need. And then there were advancements in satellite technology itself.
All right.
Remember those spot beams we talked about?
Yes, the focused beams of data.
Focusing the signal on smaller areas to increase capacity, like a
That is
flashlight
precisely.
instead of a floodlight.
Those focused spot beams were key to the success of satellites like KAST, which brought high-speed internet to Europe,
Wow.
and Viasat-1,
Okay.
which even offered in-flight Wi-Fi on airlines like JetBlue.
I remember flying from New York to Los Angeles a few years back
Oh, yeah.
and being able to stream movies the whole way.
That's great.
It was a game changer.
It was.
It's amazing how quickly in-flight Wi-Fi has become the norm.
It really is.
It's all thanks to satellites.
Pretty much.
But speaking of game changers,
Yeah.
we can't forget about those mega constellations we briefly touched on earlier.
Oh, yes. The mega constellations.
Companies like SpaceX with its Starlink project and
Ah.
OneWeb are
Right.
launching thousands of satellites into low Earth orbit, right?
That's right.
Okay, remind me again why that's such a big deal.
Well, remember how geostationary satellites are so far away
Yeah.
that they cause those frustrating delays,
A latency?
that high latency?
Yeah.
Well, these low Earth orbit satellites are much closer to Earth,
Okay.
which means shorter signal travel times
Makes sense.
and significantly reduced latency.
So online gaming on a remote island paradise,
It's becoming more and more feasible.
video calls from the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
Is that the future of satellite internet?
It certainly looks that way.
That's amazing.
But managing these mega constellations comes with its own set of challenges.
Oh, I bet.
You need sophisticated systems to coordinate all those satellites,
Right.
track their positions,
Yeah.
and ensure continuous coverage as they move across the sky.
Thousands of satellites whizzing around in space.
It's quite a spectacle to imagine.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster. How do they prevent them from crashing into each other?
It's a monumental task.
It sounds like it.
But companies like SpaceX are investing heavily in advanced technologies
Okay.
to make it work.
So what are they doing?
They use cutting-edge software to predict satellite paths,
Okay.
make adjustments to avoid collisions,
Uh-huh.
and constantly optimize the network for performance and reliability.
So it's like air traffic control, but for satellites.
A great analogy.
That's wild.
But it's not just about managing the satellites themselves.
Oh, there's more.
These constellations also require a robust ground infrastructure
Okay.
to connect to the wider internet and distribute the signal to users.
So there's a whole ground network as well.
There is.
Wow.
There are ground stations all over the planet
Uh-huh.
working in concert to ensure seamless connectivity.
It sounds incredibly complex.
It is a complex undertaking.
But if they can pull it off, the impact on global connectivity could be huge.
Absolutely.
Imagine a world where everyone, regardless of location, has access to high-speed internet.
It's a powerful vision.
It could transform education, healthcare, business.
It could really empower communities that have been left behind in the digital age.
It's a truly inspiring vision.
It is.
But I also imagine there are concerns about having so many satellites in orbit.
There are always concerns with new technology.
What about space debris?
That's a valid concern.
Won't all those satellites increase the risk of collisions and create even more debris?
Space debris is a growing problem,
It sounds like it.
and these mega constellations do add to the challenge.
So what can be done about it?
But companies like SpaceX are aware of this and are taking steps to mitigate the risks.
Okay, that's good to hear.
They design their satellites to deorbit at the end of their lifespan,
So they don't just stay up there forever.
meaning they'll safely burn up in the atmosphere instead of cluttering up space.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's a responsible approach to managing space debris.
That's reassuring. So we've got these massive constellations of satellites, advanced software for managing them, a complex ground infrastructure, and a focus on sustainability.
It's quite a technological feat.
It sounds like we're entering a whole new era of satellite internet.
I think we are.
But what about the technology itself? Is there anything else on the horizon that could push the boundaries even further?
Well, one of the most exciting developments is the use of laser communication
Laser communication.
for inter-satellite links.
So the satellites are talking to each other with lasers.
Instead of relying on radio waves, which can be susceptible to interference,
Okay.
some of these newer constellations are using lasers to communicate with each other.
Lasers, like something straight out of Star Wars.
Pretty much.
That's amazing.
It sounds like science fiction, but it's real and rapidly advancing technology.
So it's not just a sci-fi fantasy anymore.
These laser links allow for incredibly fast data transfer between satellites,
Wow.
creating a high-speed internet backbone in space.
It's mind-blowing, bypassing all the limitations of ground-based networks by creating an entirely new network in space.
It's a revolutionary concept.
But what about the cost of all this? Will this new era of satellite internet be affordable for everyone?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's all very impressive, but can people actually afford it?
And one that we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm eager to hear more about that.
We'll delve into the economics of satellite internet,
Okay.
the potential impact on global connectivity, and the challenges that still lie ahead.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back for the final part of our satellite internet saga.
I can't believe it's already the final part.
I know, right? It feels like we've traveled from the early days of Sputnik to a future filled with laser beaming satellites.
It's been quite a journey.
It's amazing how far this technology has come.
It really is.
But before we get too lost in the sci-fi possibilities,
Right.
let's bring things back down to Earth.
Back to reality.
We've talked about bridging the digital divide
Right.
and connecting remote communities.
Yeah.
But what about the cost?
The cost.
Will everyone be able to afford high-speed internet beamed down from space?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it would be expensive.
Well, the good news is that satellite internet is becoming more affordable
Oh, that's good.
as technology advances and competition heats up.
So more companies are getting into the game,
Exactly.
which is driving prices down.
Companies like Starlink are aiming to offer competitive pricing,
Okay.
challenging traditional broadband providers.
So, no more outrageous monthly fees and data caps. That's the goal.
That would be amazing.
But the cost of building and launching these mega constellations is still significant.
Right.
So it's a balancing act
I see.
between making the technology accessible and recouping those investments.
Right. It makes sense that there are economic factors at play.
Definitely.
But let's say the costs do become more manageable.
Okay.
What kind of impact could this have on global connectivity?
The potential is immense.
Immense.
Imagine a world where everyone,
Everyone.
from a student in a remote village to a doctor on a humanitarian mission,
Okay.
can access the same information and opportunities. That would be incredible.
It could revolutionize education.
Yeah.
Healthcare,
Mm,
commerce,
uh-huh.
and even the way we interact with each other.
It's almost like leveling the playing field on a global scale.
It is.
But with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely.
What about the ethical implications of such widespread connectivity?
Just because we can connect everyone doesn't necessarily mean we should,
That's a good point.
at least not without careful consideration of the potential downsides.
So what are some of the things we need to be thinking about?
For example, how do we ensure that this technology doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities
Yeah.
or become a tool for surveillance and control?
Those are important questions.
It's like opening a Pandora's box of possibilities.
Both good and bad.
Exactly.
So there are definitely two sides to this coin.
We need to think about issues like data privacy,
Uh-huh.
net neutrality,
Okay.
and the potential for misinformation to spread even more rapidly in a hyper-connected world. It's not just about the technology itself,
Right.
but about how we use it
Mhm.
and what kind of future we want to create.
So it's not just a technological challenge,
Yeah.
but a societal one as well.
Precisely.
It's bigger than just the tech itself.
It requires thoughtful dialogue,
Okay.
collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to grapple with complex ethical questions.
So it's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
We need to make sure that the benefits of this technology are distributed equitably,
Right.
and that we don't inadvertently create new problems in the process.
It sounds like we're standing at a crossroads.
A crossroads.
On one hand, we have this incredible technology that could connect the world
Yeah,
and unlock countless possibilities.
it's exciting.
On the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
we have a responsibility to use it wisely
Right.
and ensure that it serves humanity as a whole.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's up to us to figure out which path we want to take.
The future of satellite internet is ultimately in our hands.
hand.
It's up to us to shape its trajectory
Okay.
and ensure that it leads us toward a brighter, more connected future for everyone.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has been fascinating.
We've journeyed from the earliest days of satellite communication to a future filled with laser beams and mega constellations.
Discovered a lot of ground.
We've explored the technical intricacies,
Mm-hmm.
the economic factors,
Right.
and the ethical dilemmas that come with this game-changing technology.
It's a complex landscape.
But here's the takeaway for you, our curious listener.
Okay.
Satellite internet is no longer a futuristic fantasy.
Yep.
It's a rapidly evolving reality
It's happening now.
with the potential to reshape our world in profound ways.
It's already changing things.
It's a powerful tool that can connect us, educate us, empower us, and even entertain us.
Of course.
Whether we're soaring through the skies or exploring the depths of the ocean.
Breaking down barriers.
So as we conclude our deep dive, we leave you with this final thought.
A final thought.
What role will you play in shaping the future of satellite internet?
That's a good question for our listeners.
Will you be a passive observer? Or will you actively engage in the conversation about its responsible development and its impact on society?
It's a conversation worth having.
We encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating topic.
Yeah, keep learning.
Delve deeper into the issues we've discussed.
There's always more to discover.
And form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely.
Because the future of connectivity is not predetermined.
Right.
It's something we create together.
We all have a role to play.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep seeking knowledge and stay connected.